In this video, we're covering the way to block convoys in the Spanish Civil War. As you can see, there are several convoys with either red or blue course. The blues are for the nationalist forces, of course. The reds are for, well, the reds, the Republicans, communists, etc. During the naval phase, what you do is you take the ships from port. Nationalists have two naval bases if they haven't been conquered up north. Republicans have one single naval base, Cartagena. You know that because CAP, capital ships. These are the ones that have capital ships, which are all the ships that have names. The others without names, well, this includes fleets as well, special fleets from countries that are at war, although that is very rare. Usually we're just having Spanish ships mostly and some Italian and German submarines. The other ports that do not have cap can take destroyer flotillas and submarine groups. So in the naval phase, you sortie as many ships as the dice allows, and you place them in one of four sea zones: Mediterranean, Gibraltar, Atlantic, and the Gulf of Biscay. After any battles have gone through, they go on their naval missions, one of which is the disruption or protection of naval convoys. For example, a red destroyer flotilla will disrupt the nationalists or the German convoys going into Cadiz, just as, for example, a German or nationalist submarine group will block off this convoy here going into San Sebastian or Santander. But it could be any ship that does that, including capital ships. A convoy like this, Soviet convoy going into Castellón, for example, here, this is easy because there's one line. Confusion would arise when, for example, a convoy has two lines here, or has a long line like this Republican convoy that passes through. So the question is, how do you block this convoy? Do you block it here? Do you block it here? Well, it's pretty easy. As long as you interrupt the convoy at any of these points, you should put it on top of the convoy symbol. So you could put it here, or you could put it here. And having done that, or here, it has like three symbols. It's a long one. Just like, for example, this Italian one has a symbol here and here. So at any point, you could put a Republican cruiser there to block it, and so forth. So whether you put it here or here, at any point, then you blocked off that whole convoy. If a convoy here has two lines, then you put it here and you block it off. So why the reason for these two routes? It's very simple, because it means that these two ports take in this convoy. So if you lose this port, that convoy is still active, and you could still block it. But if you lose both ports, for example, the nationalists took over Santander here, but this port is still open. If they take over this port, the convoy is automatically blocked. You don't need to block it anymore. In fact, if you wish, you could put one of these to just to remind you that it's blocked forever until the Republicans liberate both ports if they're both taken by the nationalists. Most of the convoys, however, are straightforward. You just put your blocking ships over the symbol. So to block a convoy, you put it on top of the symbol. And when you blocked enough convoys, then this will seriously disrupt the income of your enemy on the economy phase. Technically, you could even almost win the war if you were successfully blocking off, for example, all the Republican convoys here. That would really damage them, but you don't always get the chance to do that. Remember, however, that it is tricky to block convoys that are not Spanish nationalists or Spanish Republicans, because if you are to block a foreign convoy that is not at war, that country will receive a yellow cube here. This represents the 4 and 8 points, and these represent war points, which means that because Germany was blocked, when it comes to the strategy phase at the end, you're going to roll a D20. All of these are D20s, and you don't need the card to roll this. You just roll it at the end of the turn, at the strategy turn. And then if you get an 18, Germany joins the war. And this is in fact what happened in this situation. Germany has officially joined, and you never get these guys in. This is very rare. We played the game like 30 times, and this only happened like once or twice, I think, where the Germans have the official, they have their armies that go in, commanded by General Reichenau. And in fact, the Italians have also came in officially. You have the Royal Italian Army instead of the usual CTV, which participated in the Spanish Civil War, but not the official Royal Army here, which is what happened when Italy joined the war because of such a case here, where their convoys were blocked. Blocking off American convoys is also not a very good idea. They supply both sides, the Reds and the Blues. Same with the British up there, the Republicans and the Nationalists here as well. It's not too serious, but you got to be careful with the fascist countries, Italy and Germany, because they will get angry. The Soviets also have a risk of going into war, but not as much if you block their convoys because of things that are explained in the rules. If these countries join, there's a small chance that other countries will join the war and vice versa to an extent. So blocking convoys is awesome, but do so at your own peril. I would like to point out that convoys do not mean necessarily that the country is supporting the war. Certainly that goes on, and that's what the foreign aid box is for, to indicate the support that goes through countries. But it just means that ships are carrying supplies to the Spaniards. It might be their own supplies that they're purchasing from other places, but it means that the ship flies the flag of that country. So an American convoy means that it is owned by an American company. A Soviet convoy is state-owned by the Soviet Union, and so forth. I'm saying this because the United States and United Kingdom, especially the United Kingdom, did not really support the war too much, but there were individual ships or companies that did so, and that's why the convoys have those flags. In the case of America, they had more interests than the British. The British had a huge Rio Tinto company, and America had IT&T and Texas Oil sending oil to Franco. I just wanted to make the distinction that the presence of convoys do not mean necessarily the presence of foreign aid. It just means that they belong to that country, in which case, if you sink enough ships, that's what blocking a convoy means. You're disrupting them by sinking ships or interfering with the ship's route. You do that enough times, it can cause a war, because after all, the ship is technically the soil of whatever country's flag it's sailing under.